Today's coverage of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Welcome to the first double sprint of the season here in Cheste, Valencia, Spain for the Season 3, Round 5 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively here on TRTN. As always, I am Regan Clark, and you join us here at the season midway for Season 3 as we approach the first of our double stints as mentioned before. After the delay at Silverstone, this time we'll be coming to the sunny vistas of Spain's Valencia region here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. Constructed in 1998 as the Circuit de Valencia, it would be renamed to the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in honour of the passing of local Valencian racing hero Ricardo Tormo in 1998. He was a two-time motorcycle Grand Prix champion. The track would open to the public the year after in 1999. As one of the youngest venues in Spain, Valencia's calendar has primarily consisted of motorcycle racing, owing to its namesake. It has held the Valencian Grand Prix first in its inaugural year of 1999, and then has been a fixture of the calendar of MotoGP since its inception at the turn of the millennium, only missing out in 2024. It's set to hold at least 3 more until 2031, in which it will resume on a yearly basis. On 4 wheels, Valencia hosts rounds of the GT World Challenge Europe Series, NASCAR Euro Series, and the Ferrari Challenge, with previously rounds held for the World Touring Car Championship, DTM, and Formula E, where it sat in place of the cancelled Paris E-Prix in 2021. Today, though, it hosts the first double sprint of the season, and getting straight into things, let's get a look at all of the juicy data here in a very, very short free practice session. So, getting us off to the discussion of the regs, starting us off, here is what it's going to look like. One free practice session coming up right now, which we're about to hit the end of as we speak, and we'll be hitting the first of our 2 10-minute qualifying sessions, juxtaposed by 2 30-minute races. Everything cut down the middle then, much more urgency on the table for round 5 going forward, and it's going to be one of several in the championship. Getting a look at the teams' championships then, Malwa Racing leads by 26 points to K1 Esports, who themselves are up at ahead of MSA Racing. Hokianos Motorsports secure the midfield ahead of you amateurs, relegated to the back of the top 5. Bulgarian Racing Team down to 6th with 26 points, and Brabbles in 7th with no new teams for round 5 of the championship. One new driver then, and that's Kristianis Lanieks from Latvia in the number 84 Mercedes AMG GT3. Getting straight into it then, we've not got a lot of time here before the discussion of qualifying. We're on board at the moment with last round's race winner Cas van Velzen as we discuss the Drivers' Championship standings. And starting things off, Melvin Milliston continues to lead that charge, but by a withering gap. 81 points to Van Velzen's 76. That gap is coming down. Tyler Vermack third with 65 points, and Christian Lebay only 3 points behind in 4th. James Mason rounds out the top 5 with K1 Esports. Byron Forrest in 6th, right on his tail then by 3 points, and a single point behind him was a man who took a very good visit to the podium last round, Elias De Vos in 7th place with 53 points. Kevin Quain in 8th position with 42 points. David Silf in 9th with 34 points, and Alexander Rozhnov, the round 1 race winner in Brands Hatch, still in the top 10 all this time later with 32 points. So we see here with Van Velzen, only a minute and 20 seconds before we're on to the first of our 2 10-minute qualifying sessions today, and what a track it is to be at today. The last time we were here in Valencia was for a very similarly structured round back in VSR Phoenix, of which was a fantastic double-header of rounds, both of which was won by the number 66 of Tommy, competing in the gold category. But today, we could see 2 new race winners adorn the charts here in Season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League. Having a look at the race winners this season, of course, Rozhnov took that opening win in Brands Hatch. Alton Park would be one of 2 victories this season for Melvin Milliston, of which he would follow up swiftly at round 3 in the Netherlands at the Circuit Zandvoort in the last round just gone. Then at Spa for our our second endurance race of the championship was won by this man here, Cas van Velzen in the number 420 Ford Mustang. Well, we are but moments then away from qualifying. We'll be getting on to the discussion of qualifying predictions, as it is looking very healthy. All 10 of those positions in the pivotal top 10 have a time corresponding to them, so we actually do have some data to work with, and plus we'll also be discussing the balance of performance as well as where we could be looking to head next on the calendar. So that is coming up very, very shortly. We'll just watch here with Cas van Velzen as he makes his way out through turn 14 at Adrian Campos. Down to the line he goes then, as it ticks down just to the end of free practice there. before he gets to the line. And already then, we are in to the first of our 2 qualifying sessions today. Immediately out of the gates comes James Mason. You can see in pursuit there already is Byron Forrest in the 824 Ford Mustang. Right behind him, Cas van Velzen. And then you can also see further down the line is, I believe there, yes, Kevin Quain in the 607 Mustang leaving the pits. We can also see one of the 2 Holgianos Ferraris making their way out as we speak now. And we can also see as well on the map is Melvin Milliston. And right behind him is the number 91 of Ivan Sanchez to make our first 5 times on this chart. So having a look around that field, let's try and get on board with James Mason here, who starts the charge for the first of 2 10-minute qualifying sessions today. On to that discussion of qualifying predictions and balance of performance then. And Melvin Milliston looks to take pole position with a 131.087. Tyler Vermack in second with a 131.575. Byron Forrest in one of his highest predicted qualifying positions is in the third with a 131.990 on the charts. Ben Cheeseman right behind him with a 132.127. And this is remarkable, a joint 5th between Kevin Quain and Christian LeBay. The Ford and the Aston dead set with a 132.220. Behind them then Axel Cassier in 7th with a 132.552. Ben Cheeseman appears on this chart twice somehow there, so that's a bit of a mistake on our end. Sergio Belda in 9th and Ivan Sanchez in 10th position. That is a bit of a bizarre one, how Cheeseman's appeared on the charts twice. Bear in mind, we had to take one subset of data from Simbot, and the other subset was from the drivers themselves inside of the session. So starting the first of our flying laps here is James Mason. Onto the discussion of balance of performance today. Hopefully there's no duplicates in this one. And you can see Aston Martin and Lexus are in business as usual. 40 and 28 kilos shed from the V12 Vantage and the RCF. Ford performance in the negatives for a very rare occurrence here, and -8 kilos for the Mustang. Ferrari dead set for level, no gain or loss for the 296. Mercedes gaining a single kilo. Honda and Porsche gaining 2 kilos. Lamborghini and Audi gaining 7 kilos. McLaren gaining 8. BMW on the short end of the stick here will be gaining 12. So we watch with James Mason. He'll be the first of our times on the chart here, and you can really see it's all hands on deck, bar one car. You can see on the mini-map to your top left there, the 835 still in the paddock. That's Tyler Vermack in the Lexus RCF, so he's waiting just a little bit here, maybe even gunning for a one-shot qualifying. We can see that he was already looking to be in contention for pole position, but it seems very measured and very controlled for Melvin Milliston. Is it going to be his potential lookings here at yet another pole position this season? Now we see the first of our times coming in. Sadly, the telemetry wasn't able to give us much of an indication as to what the times will look like for James Mason. He'll be the first of our benchmark times today, though, the 4:13, as ever, setting the baseline. 1:32.451. Behind him comes Cas van Velzen to the line, and does not set a time there. That was invalidated. So Byron Forrest within 0.3 of a second. Behind him, you can see very quickly arriving the 607 of Kevin Quain goes third fastest. Behind him, there is the number 68 of Melvin Milliston. What's the time set by the Super Swede? 1:31.485. Right behind him, you can see as well, was I believe that is Axel Cassier, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is in the 301. Does not set a time, but one who does is Ivan Sanchez. He sets the 5th fastest time of the session so far. The 1:19 of Christian LeBay sets the 4th fastest time with Aston Martin, putting himself in between his comrades at Maloir Racing, Byron Forrest and Kevin Quain. Next to the line, Leon Schumacher with Mercedes in the number 48. Crosses the line, sadly not to set a valid time, so we'll be waiting on the number 4 here, his teammate Felix Schwab. Both of them racing for the same team in the team's championship, but neither of them secured points in Spa. Schwab to the line, 5th fastest. Behind him, you can see there Dave Bond in the 107. On his move to Porsche, it was quite the gamble back in Spa. He sets the 8th fastest time for his first flying lap of the session. The number 50 to the line there, Sergio Belda with Holgianos Motorsport, sets the 7th fastest time on his first flying lap. We can also see the number 82, Liam Cross, on his way to the line with Ford, but does not set a time there in that last lap just gone. So back on board with the man who started this qualifying session then, and that is James Mason. He's just under a second away from Melvin Milliston. Does he close the gap on this lap just gone? No. But can Cas van Velzen finally lay a time on the charts? Yes, he can. 2nd fastest. Right behind him then comes Byron Forrest from 4th, goes to 3rd. The American up to the podium positions right now. Let's see whether or not he can hold on to it. as Kevin Quain enters the equation here inside of that top 5. It looks like domination on the horizon here for the Ford Motor Company. 3 cars inside the top 5, but very quickly interrupted by the arrival then of, if I check here, Axel Cassier. So yes, still technically 3 cars in that top 5, much to the chagrin of Kevin Quain. He's now got to clear the hurdle by only a few hundredths of a second there, actually a little over a tenth of James Mason's BMW if he wants 4 Fords out of those top 5 positions. Could this be the secret recipe for success here in Valencia? Well, we saw quite the bit of a amuse-bouche from Porsche, courtesy of our time over on VSR Phoenix at this very same circuit, in this very same kind of structure of event, but it seems to be completely shifted on its head here, as Ford looks to take centre stage as the ones lining up next in line to have a go at the leading time set by McLaren's number 68, Melvin Milliston, the super Swede of this championship. The championship leader, and with 2 race wins already under his belt, is still looking for his third. He missed out on his opportunity in Spa. That went over to the likes of Cas van Velzen, who still, as of right now, has yet to retake that pole position. He's up and ahead of Forrest and Cassier, and is the leading of the blue oval here in a brand new livery. Now, I've been pondering this myself as to whether or not, is that blue or is that more like a lavender lilac-y kind of colour? Well, nonetheless, he crosses the line, but sadly not to an improvement. Can we see the likes out Byron Forrest? Yes, and now he is within a hundredth, or just over actually a hundredth of a second, 12 thousandths if we want to get specific to the time of Cas van Velzen's number 420. So the Fords are really clashing heads here in Valencia. We just saw as well Tyler Vermaak start his flying laps endeavour with the 835. So he'll be next onto the timing charts. One driver we've also yet to see on the timing charts here, Leon Schumacher. We saw him earlier on in the session, didn't set a valid lap last gone. So the number 48 still without a time on the charts here. Bear in mind, time is ticking. 3 minutes left to go. Milliston is in the pit lane. Is he charging up for one more run? You can see joining him there, the 119 of Christian Lebay, also in the pit lanes as well, Felix Schwab. And looking down the order there, the number 114, Ben Cheeseman, who set 2 times so broadly different that he was twice on that timing chart. We bring that back up, and somehow he is both 4th and 8th. Remarkable. So next to the line, number 48. They'll catch on board then with Leon Schumacher. Is there finally a time to match the name on the charts? No, not this time around for Schumacher. Number 50 then to the line, Sergio Belda with Holkianos Motorsports on his way. 2.5 minutes left to go then in Quali 1 of today. We can see behind him is Liam Cross. Does he usurp the position of the Spaniard here on home soil? No. Does not appear to be the case for the number 82. Dave Bonds to the line in the 107. Does not set a faster time just now. The 413 crosses the line and does not find an improvement. We can see the tide of Fords at his rear there. Cas van Velzen tries to reel in the gap. Can Byron Forrest reel in the gap on van Velzen? No, not this time around. As a matter of fact, here comes Tyler Vermaak surfing on the slipstream of his teammate. Makes the second fastest time by 0.2 of a second to his compatriots at Ford. So you can see there Ford 3, 4, 5 and 6. That is remarkably close there between the members of the Blue Oval. As a matter of fact, look there for Cas van Velzen, Byron Forrest and Axel Cassier, because you're talking a factor of about 0.5 tenth of a second between those 3 alone. That is truly remarkable. A razor's edge there for the times on the timing chart. We also just saw across the line as well, Ivan Sanchez and the number 91 did cross the line a moment ago, but sadly not to an improvement. He remains in 12th position here in the final minutes of Quali 1. Still hotly await the times here of the number 48. We saw the number 420 run off track. That was Cas van Velzen, who is now out of Quali 1. He'll be settling in for 3rd place at the best of it here. We see Leon Schumacher across the line, finally onto the timing charts as he's 13th fastest and up and ahead of Dave Bond. Melvin Milliston, we saw behind him there. Does he open the margins up just a tad? I believe, no, not on this lap just gone. Seen his teammate Sergio Belda on the topic of Sanchez from earlier. His teammate Sergio Belda crosses the line and he's still inside that top 10. The 119 of Christian Lebay rears up for one more flying lap in the Aston Martin. So he's currently 8th fastest. You can see behind him there is James Mason. And that tide of cars from the Malwar Racing team chasing him down into turn 1. So you can see pulling to one side. That, I believe, yes, is Byron Forrest. So he's settling in for 4th position right now, hoping not to be challenged by the likes of the 413 still out on track at the very end here of Quali 1. Cassier crosses the line for one more flying lap. You can see in the background there is Leon Schumacher, and he brings it into a start. Actually, no, that wasn't Leon Schumacher. My mistake there. That is Felix Schwab. So roughly the same looking car there. The bright neon green Mercedes is inside that top 10. And here at the very end of Quali 1, we've got the last of our times reeling in among them. Still out on track on his way through Sector 3 as we speak. The leading car right now for pole position of race 1 of 2 today for round 5 is Melvin Milliston. Currently the time to beat 1:31.177. Down he goes then into Adrian Campos. Does he extend the margins here as he crosses the line for the last time today? Yes, and only by just a few hundredths of a second there. That is nonetheless remarkable grit from the number 68. Liam Cross to the line next, then in 11th place, sadly not for an improvement. Behind him, you can see the number 50, Sergio Belda, finishes Quali 1 in 10th. Behind him as well, here comes Christian Lebay to the line from 8th position. Doesn't find an improvement, sadly, but you can see he was so close there. It was an improvement for time, but not for position, as he's within 4 thousandths of a second of James Mason's BMW. But what a result you're seeing there. Milliston, Vermaak, Van Veltzen, Forrest, Cassier, Quain, Mason, Lebay, Schwab, and Belder for that top 10. Bear in mind, we've still got another qualifying session later on today. So that's the end of Quali 1. We'll be getting onto the discussion of Race 1 today in a moment's time. 30 minutes here for Race 1 of 2 in Valencia. Whilst we've got the opportunity then, I'd like to remind you of our sponsors for this championship, and it wouldn't be possible to bring you these recordings were it not for the sponsorship of Maloir Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.maloir-transport.ca. They've been behind us every step of the way here. It wouldn't be possible to bring you these recordings week in, week out for the No Limits Racing League, and also for our new streaming partners in our new contract over on the Competizione Performance League. That rings true just as well. They've been our biggest sponsor here on TRTN, and we really cannot be more thankful. But what a qualifying session we have just seen then at the end of Quali 1 today, and we get to do this all over again in 30 minutes time. So I'm told by the event organisers that this has been structured in such a way that we could even see towards the very end of race 2 today. And now just to quickly bring back up how this is structured today. So we're at the end of Quali 1. At the moment, we'll be heading into race 1 for 30 minutes here in Valencia, then back into free practice 2 for another 5 minutes just to cool down after race 1, then into Quali 2. We'll be able to do it all over again. Another 10-minute blast here around the Circuit Ricardo Tormo before we head into race 2 at the end of today. Of course, no mandatory pit stop with these two shorter form races. And so I'm told, towards the end of this, we could even be seeing some evening to night races. So I'm under the impression right now that we are still in the bookings for 2 dry races in a row. And I think after yesterday's solo multi-class endurance championship, I think plenty of us were waiting for a little bit of respite from the rain, as that was really quite chaotic last night in Zandvoort. Getting a look at where we're at on the calendar here whilst we wait for the grid, you'll see that we're at round 5 of the championship for the first of our double sprints. It used to be that we were going to be heading to Silverstone, but that round ultimately got delayed. We'll be heading into another double set of endurance races at Nürburgring and Monza in the next 2 weeks. We'll be heading to another double sprint round in the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria for round 8 of the championship on the 14th of September. Do I see rain? Yes, I do. So that is a remarkable turn of fate. We were under the impression it could have been dry and calm weather by contrast, but no, we're in for some wet racing. So for the last 2 rounds of the championship, we'll be in Indianapolis and then back to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. But what are we seeing here in a sudden turn of fate for the weather? It is looking to be a wet race here for the next 30 minutes. Melvin Milliston then lines up on pole position alongside him for that front row, makes an ultra-competitive top 2 with Tyler Vermaak in second place. Then a swarm of Ford Mustangs behind them as Cas van Veltzen leads the charge for the Blue Oval ahead of Maloir Racing's Byron Forrest, Axel Cassier and Kevin Quain. Then in 7th place is James Mason in the 413 BMW, and he's ahead of Christian Lebay in the 119 Aston Martin. Felix Schwab in 9th position in the number 4 Mercedes, and rounding out that top 10 with Holkianos Motorsports is Sergio Belda in the number 50 Ferrari. Behind him, Liam Cross in the number 82 Ford, and Ivan Sanchez, Belda's teammate, lines up in 12th, only a single row behind. Leon Schumacher in 13th, and Dave Bond on his second race with Porsche makes 14th position. Ben Cheeseman missed out on qualifying today, and despite those 2 times on the chart, would have you believe is going to start 15th today in the 114. So this is going to be a rather exciting start. Now, I wasn't expecting rain on the charts here for the first of our 2 races. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but we really were under the impression, with how bright and sunny the races often are here in Circuit Ricardo Tormo, that we were going to be seeing a pair of dry races. But hey ho, I'm not complaining. I imagine the drivers will be the ones with more words than I. So we wait now, just about 1 minute and 10. We actually do see the arrival of another driver. At the back of that field is Scott Milbank. We saw get into a little bit of chicanery in last night's race at Zandvoort. So I'm told by the race organisers it was a 10% chance of rain. So we've still had it left up in the air, but the overwhelming majority of data would have indicated a drier, if not at the very worst of it, a mixed condition race. So this is a pleasant surprise, and it's the first time here on TRTN that we'll ever be able to see a wet race here in the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. The last time, of course, when we covered things in VSR Phoenix, they ran 2 dry races. So this is going to give us a very interesting little study.
30 seconds.
A 30-second warning then shown to the grid, so we'll be getting on board with Melvin Milliston, who lines up from pole position for one of 2 races today. Could he be going for back-to-back wins? That is definitely in the realm of possibility with how fired up he's been over the course of the season. He leads the championship right now by quite a ways and is looking to open that gap up further to the likes of Cas van Velsen. Having a look at my notes here for that championship as well, you can see that the gap is about, looking at it here, about 5 points actually. So it is still a fairly close margin. You can see actually that's remarkable amounts of spray as the drivers actually take to the track. So it looked like a little bit of rain, but it's quickly turning into quite a lot of rain. So like it or lump it, it looks like we're in for another torrential downpour race, this time here in what would have been the warm confines of the Valencian community in Spain. You can see real trouble for the 835, and we see here from Melvin Milliston's perspective, Vermaak is really slowing the crowd down here. Milliston was able to get away quite nicely through turn 1. But no such luck from the 835. Has this been something that Vermaak maybe didn't calculate in the chances for the race today? We had a nice dry qualifying session. Bear in mind, we still have the opportunity for a dry race today. But this has certainly thrown quite a monstrously large wrench in the works for most of the grid. The 114 is in the pit lane, and so too is Scott Milbank with him in the number 44. So back on board with Melvin Milliston for that front row. Our pole sitter who'll be leading that charge down to turn 1. The question therein remains. Now, we know the McLaren is a fairly solid car. I mean, it's definitely grown to be one of the most dominant faces of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and it really isn't without reason as to why that is. But can it hold its nerve against a raging Tyler Vermaak in the 835 Lexus? We've seen in the last couple of seasons, especially here in the Sunday League, the rise to popularity of the ancient, by comparison, Lexus RCF, a car nearly 10 years behind the technical curve, continues to roar on in the modern day. And bear in mind, in real life, it has an Evo package, but we don't get any of it here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. That's reserved for the graces of LMGT3 over in the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA Sports Car Championship. So we'll watch here with Milliston. You can see Vermaak desperately trying to cling to some heat in those tyres, and so we heard from some driver testimonies last night at Zandvoort that it was actually a case of the driver's tyres getting too hot as opposed to them getting too cold. So now it leaves a massive sort of void in our calculations as to what exactly is going to be the optimum range for these drivers today. How hard can they drive the car before it starts to kick them back? Well, we'll have 30 minutes to figure that out for round 5 of the championship for race 1 of 2 today here in Valencia. Lining up 2 abreast with 2 in the pit lane makes, if I do my numbers correctly here, about 14 drivers on track. 2 from the pit lane, 16 overall for round 5, race 1. here in Valencia in the pouring wet. Without further ado then, for the first of 2 times today, the 30 minutes against the clock, the first double sprint of the season. We're green and racing for the first time of 2 here in Valencia, and already a great getaway by Melvin Milliston and Tyler Vermaat, but you can see also a fantastic getaway by Cas van Veltzen, leading the charge for Ford down into turn 1. Around the outside goes Tyler Vermaat, and it looks like disaster imminent already. You can see in the background that's created a huge ripple effect out through turn 1. We saw the slow proceedings of that, and it has all come asunder. Plenty of drivers picked up in the midst of that, among them Leon Schumacher in the number 48. It's been a disastrous start for Tyler Vermaat with Lexus. Picking up on the scraps of it then will be everyone behind him. Byron Forrest, Axel Cassier and James Mason are scrapping inside of that top 5. As the data struggles to keep note with what we're seeing on our screens here. Byron Forrest still holds on to 3rd, but it's Cas van Veltzen inheriting Vermaat's 2nd place. Right behind him, Axel Cassier then to mark the first lap of the race. But let's get a look up front here as Cas van Veltzen is on the warpath. We saw what he could do with the Mustang last night in Zandvoort. Does he go for another win here in the wet? It is absolutely likely, but he has got a very stiff customer in the marks of Melvin Milliston. He is not going to be an easy one to get past in this race today. Looking here with Van Veltzen. So right now, Milliston from Van Veltzen, Forrest, Cassier and Mason to round out that top 5. We're getting a look further elsewhere on the charts. We see just with Cas van Veltzen, he's looking for the inside. Down at turn 14, it's contact between the pair of them, pushing Milliston out wide. He's skating on the exit of Adrian Campos corner at turn 14. That's disastrous for Milliston, but Van Veltzen takes the lead of the race. Right behind him then in hot pursuit of the Fords of Byron Forrest and Axel Cassier, nearly 2 abreast, forced back in a single file there by a incredibly frustrated 68 of Melvin Milliston. Not that Byron Forrest is going to be taking the cues subtly. Down into turn 2 we go. He's on the outside. Through Dewan, into turn 3 we go then. Byron Forrest is in hot pursuit. Bear in mind, he's not exactly in lonesome company. He's got Axel Cassier right on his rear quarter. That has been a disastrous race start for quite a few caught up in the wreckage there. Among them, Tyler Vermaat, Kevin Quain and Leon Schumacher. Up front, Cas van Veltzen leads this race. Melvin Milliston had a bump and run out through turn 14. He's not happy about that whatsoever. We can see in 3rd place right now, Byron Forrest with the Malwar Racing Team, followed in lieu by Cassier and LeBay now to make that top 5, as recently losing that top 5 position is James Mason in the 413. He's got Liam Cross right up his backside here in the number 82. A remarkable turnaround. We can see a driver just went out wide there. It's Milliston. And we can see Cross sideways as well on our way in through Jaime Macia at turn 11. It has been a very mixed bag here for the starting 5 minutes of race 1 of 2. Leading that charge now, though, is Cas van Veltzen with the number 420 Ford, looking for consecutive wins here after Spa last round. See Kevin Quain and Tyler Vermaat on the exit of the pits now. They're a lap down from everyone else, and sliding his way out of the pits there on a very sketchy exit was the 607. The 835 looking for the inside at Dewan at turn 2. Tyler Vermaat goes for the inside on Kevin Quain. Bear in mind, these two both with a Malwar Racing Team there, and that's been tucked in neat and tidy by turn 3. Getting a look here with Liam Cross. He was in hot pursuit of Mason and LeBay. You can see them having actually swapped positions, and the yellow flags are out for the number 4. That's Felix Schwab, just on the last corner gone. So if we try and get on board here with the number 4 and see what's gone on for Felix Schwab. He had a spin out through, looking at it here, from turn 1 to turn 2 at Aspar and Dewan. Looking amongst that crunch then inside of our top 4. You can see Melvin Milliston having lost not 1, not 2, but 3 positions from the race start here. Now sees another chance of a Ford 1-2-3. Bear in mind, the last time we saw that was back at the season opener in Brands Hatch. Caught up in the mix at the moment. We're still watching with Byron Forrest. Cas van Veltzen leads the charge, and Byron Forrest now up to 2nd place. Cassier slotting in behind, and Milliston in hot pursuit. So this is fantastic what we're seeing here on the starting couple of laps of today's race. The opening 5 minutes have given us a real spectacle here in Valencia. The 835 brings out the yellow flags. Tyler Vermack in trouble at turn 14. We're coming up on that very quickly here from the perspective of our two Mustangs for second and third. You can see, oh my goodness, very nearly into the sights of Tyler Vermack on the exit of turn 14. But Cassier is still fighting with Byron Forrest. And all the meanwhile, they've got their teammate alongside him now trying to cover off Melvin Milliston, who is going to be incredibly annoyed now. His blood will be running white hot into turn 1. Cassier to the inside on Forrest. Here comes Milliston, though, looking for the inside at Doohan at turn 2. Can the Mustang hold him off? No. Past the apex of the corner, the McLaren is up on the inside. Running out wide, though, was Cassier. So further inviting in an advance here by Melvin Milliston. This is a terrifying sight for the Fords. They're under siege from the McLaren. Not one, but potentially 2 positions in the ballpark of Melvin Milliston in the span of 1 sector. Remarkable stuff by the 68. All the meanwhile, Cas van Veltzen leads that charge. Let's get on board, though, with a man at war here inside the top 5. It's the number 68 of Melvin Milliston, who returns to the front row with a vengeance to play for here. Right behind him, the number 301 of Axel Cassier. What a drive we have seen already. In the opening 7 minutes of racing, you could not ask for a greater opening drive. Now is one singular purpose in this race: revenge. That's all he's after now. This is a furious drive by Melvin Milliston. If the last lap hadn't given you any precedent as to what we're dealing with today, that is a driver locked in, unlike the likes I've ever seen in my time as a commentator. That is so pinpoint precise. That was military. Looking down the order, we can see there is a fight right now for 7th place. We can also see that Byron Forrest just dropped back quite a way then, even behind the lapping car of Tyler Vermack. We see here trying to catch on board with Sergio Belder right now, looking to fight, as a matter of fact, up with P6 with Liam Cross and the number 82 Ford Mustang. So that is one to keep a close eye on here in the opening 7 minutes of racing. We can still also see that Cassier has not lost sight of Melvin Milliston, and neither has Melvin Milliston lost sight of the likes of Cas van Veltzen, who still leads this race by 5.1 seconds. Getting a look here. Belder is reeling in Liam Cross. So one of the 2 Holcianos Motorsports Ferraris in this race, looking for the chance here of P6. You can see as well in that last checkpoint, Cassier is really closing in. We'll have to catch up here with the likes of Sergio Belder in a moment's time. We try and get on board here with Melvin Milliston, who's got Axel Cassier for company in that fight for second place. We'll stay on board just for a moment here in that fight for second in the court of Melvin Milliston. 5.2, make it 5.3 seconds past turn 14 to fight for here. Actually, not sorry, turn 14. That's my mistake. We're out through turn 8 at Bernat Martinez. Now out through turn 11 at Jaime Marcia towards Champi Herreros at turn 12. Cassier losing steam there, so that kind of erases the chance of that fight for second position right now. You can see Kevin Quain, one of the other Malwell Mustangs, in the way of Melvin Milliston. He moves over to the right-hand side out through turn 14. This is where we thought he was a moment ago. And now no one stands in the way between the number 420 and the number 68. You can see them physically share a space on track down that opening straight. 138.902 by Van Veltzen in the last lap, and it's a 138.665 by Milliston. That should tell you everything you need to know, because that is going to hot up by the end of today's race. 21.5 minutes left to go of race 1 of 2. Having a look around the field then. Let's get back on board. We saw it earlier. Well, let's see where it's picked up. As we just see here, trouble for Kevin Quain as he's caught completely off guard through turn 1. He's in the runoff and was skating there. He downgraded from driver to passenger over the course of that run. We watch here with Liam Cross, one of the 2 drivers caught up in that fight. We were watching from the perspective of Sergio Belder not a moment ago. Now we watch from the defending driver's point of view as Liam Cross has got the Ferrari for company. Bear in mind, bringing back up from earlier, that discussion of balance of performance, Ferrari find themselves in a very nice point here in the BOP charts. They aren't losing anything, but not gaining anything either. They're just able to work with the platform at hand. And the 296 has already proven itself, like the McLaren when we spoke about it earlier, as one of the most reputable faces in ACC. So there is very good confidence by the Holcianos team to try and catch up with Liam Cross's Ford Mustang. But you cannot deny what is very, very clear to us today, that this track has been dominated by Ford. See right now, Ford in 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 15th. The greatest spread of it then inside of that top 10. So after 10 minutes here, we're a third of the way through on race 1. Cas van Veltzen leads this race after a bump and run from earlier on. You can debate about that all you want, but that is where it stands right now. Melvin Milliston's in 2nd and is in pursuit. Right behind him, you can see Axel Cassier in the red-nosed 301 Mustang. And then you can see that's sharing that space of the track with him. That is Tyler Vermack down in 14th, who had a disastrous start out through this section of the track here at turn 1. He spun after turn 1, running into the runoff on the right-hand side. Further down the order then, Byron Forrest in 4th and Christian LeBay into the top 5. Liam Cross in 6th, sharing the track right now with Sergio Belda in the number 50. He makes 7th position. His teammate, Ivan Sanchez, up and ahead of Felix Schwab for 8th and 9th position. Dave Bond makes the top 10 with Porsche. Leon Schumacher in 11th, still with damage on the nose in the number 48. Still has a chance right now to come into the pit. Scott Milbank is in pursuit of him in 12th position as we watch him just make his way out of turn 11 at Jaime Marcia. James Mason down to 13th position. He started toward that top 10. Now is just outside of it. Tyler Vermack, same story there as well. The 835 outside of the top 10 entirely for 14th position. A driver caught up in the mess of it was Kevin Quain. He makes 15th position and Ben Cheeseman remains in the pits. He'll sit out race 1, hopefully to pick things up then for race 2 of today. Back on board with Liam Cross. Now, this is in that discussion for the fight of 6th between himself and Holkianos Motorsports' Sergio Belda. We can see that it's kind of left off exactly where we did. It's still around that just under the second barrier between the pair of them. Nothing too much to report on that front, but we do have a yellow flag. And it was, as a matter of fact, for Belda himself having trouble on the exit of turns 9 and 10 before turn 11 at Jaime Marcia. A fun fact as well, both Sergio Belda and Ivan Sanchez with the Holkianos team are from Valencia, so this race does mean a very great deal to them. And right now, both of them are inside pivotal top 10 scoring positions. Holkianos continues to move up the charts in the team's championship, so all of this is playing very, very nicely into the pair of them's hands. Back into green flag conditions then for the time being with 17, just under 18 minutes left to go in today's race. Not the greatest lap then for Sergio Belda as he's dropped behind his teammate and now has the likes of Felix Schwab chasing him for 8th position down into turn 1. We'll stay on board then with Belda as he looks to fend off the Mercedes number 4 of Felix Schwab. Right up his backside at the moment, fending off 8th position. This is looking incredibly close between Schwab and Belda. Also to note as well, just taking a look on the map, is that number 48, number 44, Leon Schumacher and Scott Milbank. Schumacher spins, Milbank's up just as we caught them there. That has gone horrifically wrong for Leon Schumacher. Caught right there. So now we pick up the story back with Sergio Belda fighting for 8th there against Schumacher's teammate, Felix Schwab in the number 4. Out through Bernat Martinez at turn 8 into turn 9 and 10. Now, this was the area of the track the number 50 ran into trouble last lap just gone. Not this time around. As a matter of fact, is reeling in time to his teammate Sanchez. So we could even be looking at a little bit of an infight amongst the Holkianos pair for 7th position. But we'll stay right now in that discussion of the fight for 8th. Down across the line then, nearly halfway into today's race, and things have simmered down towards the front of that top 10 for now, at least in the discussion of Milliston and Van Veltzen. That gap is still closing down, so there will be that fight for the lead of Milliston v Van Veltzen, and I do thoroughly look forward to seeing where that progresses to. Right now, we're still watching what is now very quickly becoming that discussion of the fight for 7th on 3 fronts. Ivan Sanchez, Sergio Belda, and Felix Schwab. Can see there as well. A swap of positions as Sanchez runs into trouble. Schwab's now up and ahead of him. So this is now the defensive fight for 7th. Belda got what he wanted, but it came at the cost of performance for Sanchez. But watch here with Ivan Sanchez now as he looks to fight. And this is more so in the discussion. Less for 7th now, more for 8th. But you can see as I just lift my head back up over the monitor, trouble for the number 4. You can see where it all went wrong there. He's gone to the very far right-hand side of the track at turn 8. And he's got absolutely no grip to play with. And that's the end of the story so far for Felix Schwab. Dave Bond gets up and ahead of him for 9th position. So for Sergio Abelde, it's real pay dirt here because he's back up to 7th. In the number 50, his teammates right alongside him. Both of them have a very healthy dose of points on the way for the Holkianos team. Bear in mind, 2 races today, so there is still the opportunity later down the line for more drier conditions, which is definitely going to bring a lot more into frame here. And speaking of bringing things into frame, it's the one we've all been waiting for, the fight for first, finally kicking back off. An enraged Melvin Milliston up against Cas van Veltzen on the warpath. Ford versus McLaren here in race 1 of 2. It's what we've all been waiting for. I just didn't think it'd show up so soon. The number 420 versus the number 68. Watching then with Milliston on the charge. Weather doesn't show any sign of relenting right now. The rain's still battering down on the FIA Grade 2 here in Valencia. And what definitely appears for the most part to be a front engine dominated track, as we've seen the real streak of performance by Ford today. The one dark horse among them, Melvin Milliston in the 68 McLaren. Down to turn 14 we go then to kick off lap 10. You see this bizarre, I suppose not very bizarre, but this interesting little technique here from Milliston. He goes all the way to the left-hand side off of the dry line. I think it's in efforts to try and cool his tyres down. Now, as mentioned earlier in the stream, we had quite a few testimonies come through after yesterday's stream from the drivers, as a matter of fact, contrastingly to what we had suggested before. It wasn't the lack of heat getting to the drivers. It was actually the overabundance of heat today. We can actually see very nearly trouble between Schumacher and Van Veltzen, soaring on his way to the inside, out through turn 5 on the exit of Nico Terrell. Up to turn 6 we go. Angel Nieto corner. You can see Van Veltzen is scrubbing time here in the middle sector. Up towards turn 7 at De La Afición and turn 8 at Bernat Martinez. He could be short to lose position here, as Milliston is totally lasered in on his position right now. In through turn 8, the Mustang gets on the throttle earlier, gets a little bit better of a getaway from the McLaren, but the McLaren has the better line in the background. Oh my word, you can see that was Leon Schumacher. Into the wall. That's brought the yellow flags out for the time being. He's back on track as far as I've been led to believe here, so he's still okay. We're still watching that fight for first, as it could go side by side at a moment's notice here on the exit of Champi Herreros at turn 12, up towards turn 13 and turn 14, Adrian Campos. This could kick off at a moment's notice. 12 minutes left to go then for race 1 of 2. Running very deep into turn 14. That might be the opportunity that Melvin Milliston needs. You can see he's alongside. Can he get up and ahead? We know how fast the Ford is in a straight line, squeezed all the way to the left-hand side of the track. It's side by side between Cas van Veltzen and Melvin Milliston. Minor contact between the pair of them as he tries to nudge his way back over onto the racing line. Down into turn 1. Can he make it stick? No, because a switchback dealt in by Cas van Veltzen puts him back to the inside at turn 2 at Dewin. Fantastic stuff right behind them. The trying to unlap car, at least, of Tyler Vermack getting into the mix here as they're side by side again. Another bit of a bump between Van Veltzen and Milliston. It is war on all fronts on the front row. More contact, this time on the exit of Nico Terrell. Then into turn 5. It's only going to keep going on until someone breaks. Now up to turn 6. Angel Nieto back in a single file, but Tyler Vermack is sticking his head where it does not belong, and it appears to be contact between the pair of them. What on earth is he doing? That was sloppy there from the 835. 1.2 seconds, but running deep into Jaime Macia corner. Was it intentional, or was it just the conditions giving much less to talk about for the Lexus? In my personal opinion, you can see the fight going on ahead of you. Do not stick your nose where you do not intend to get pinched. Down to turn 14 we go then. So it's out to 1.1 seconds between Van Velzen and Milliston. It was almost within a hair's width there had it not been for the intervention of the 835. So down the opening straight. He's lost a bit of steam there in the last lap just gone. Cas Van Velzen still leads the charge here. 10 minutes left to go. Looking on the charts, that is your front row right now. Back further down the field, Axel Cassier in third, Byron Forrest in fourth, and Christian Lebay rounds out the top five. Sergio Belda and Ivan Sanchez up to sixth and seventh. Liam Cross in eighth, Felix Schwab ninth, and Dave Bond makes the top 10. Scott Milbank in 11th, James Mason in 12th, Vermack in 13th with the fastest lap. Leon Schumacher in 14th, Kevin Crane 15th, and Ben Cheeseman sits out race 1. He'll be in for race 2. This is absolute cinema at play here. It is proper white knuckle stuff, old fashioned, no holds barred. Down towards turn 8 we go then. Out through Della Afición and now through Bernat Martinez corner. Turn 8. You can see just how close Milliston's willing to make this, but still they've got that pressing factor of the unlapping 835 Lexus of Tyler Vermack playing invigilator here as we make our way through Jaime Masia curve at turn 11. Valencia does not disappoint today. He's sliding his way out through turn 12 at Champi Herreros, now makes turn 13. Meanwhile, you can still see that Lexus is in play. Dare he try for a move to the inside? Surely not. To turn 14, he does, and it's contact between himself and the McLaren. What on God's green earth was Tyler Vermack thinking? Going for a move like that, it has cost Melvin Milliston dearly with 8.5 minutes to go. That is disastrous. He's now even dropped position now down past the likes of Axel Cassier, who takes up second in today's race. What on earth is happening here in Valencia? Absolute madness. You cannot make the likes of this up. Vermack's now up and ahead of Cas Van Velzen. He knows now he's a marked man from the word go for race 2. There is no chance here, if Milliston participates in race 2, that Vermack will survive it. After a move like that, there is blood in the water. 7.5 minutes left to go then for race 1 of 2 today. That was truly, truly bizarre. Feel free to debate among yourselves over the efficacy of that move. In my honest opinion, he had no reason to be sticking his nose into that fight, especially with how close it was getting. We also see right now yellow flags are out. It was, as a matter of fact, for Ben Cheeseman, so we weren't expecting him to get out on track for today's race, but he has, and he's been met almost immediately with a spin at turn 2 and 3. So right now, with just under 7 minutes left to go, Cas Van Velzen leads. Axel Cassier in second, Melvin Milliston down to third, but looks to be reclaiming second in a moment's time here as he's in pursuit of Cassier's 301 Ford Mustang. Byron Forrest in fourth, and Christian Lebay rounds out the top 5. Belda and Sanchez sixth and seventh, not too far from one another on track. The Holkianos twins picking up a very, very solid bow of points today. We can see that real trouble has met the court of Liam Cross as Felix Schwab looks to get up and past him here for 8th position. There is damage on the nose of the number 82 Ford. One driver without any trouble right now after his incident from earlier is Felix Schwab. He could be getting a free position here on his hands down into turns 13 and 14, right on the tail end of Liam Cross's Mustang. He looks to make it 2 abreast, letting the Mustang run itself out of road at turn 14. He's done that very neat and tidy there. Felix Schwab up to 8th. So that puts Liam Cross down to 9th. Dave Bond isn't too far from the pair of them here. We could be seeing 3 cars battling in the back of the top 10 in a moment's time, just as much so as we could be seeing a fight here between Milliston and Cassier in a moment's notice. All in the last 5 minutes of racing yet to come. Liam Cross then to 9th, Bond 10th, then behind him Scott Milbank in 11th, James Mason 12th, Vermack in 13th, Schumacher in 14th, and in the pit lane, same story for Quain. Both of them look to be DNFs in today's race, and Cheeseman is out on track and is in 16th and down by 12 laps, so I have no real idea where he's going to place at the end of today's race. So Van Velzen leads 2.4 seconds from Cassier and Milliston. That gap is still tantalizingly close. And with Vermac now out of frame, up the field, 3.5 seconds clear. There is still, now bear in mind, a slim but palpable chance of yet another fight for the lead. So I will hold my breath to that as a matter of fact. Out through turn 8 we go then, still watching with Liam Cross here as he's looking to be under siege in a moment's time by Dave Bond. You can see up ahead of him at the moment, wide out through turn 11 at Jaime Masia for the number 91 of Ivan Sanchez. Checking in here, Cassier has Milliston all over him on his way down to Nico Terrell at turn 4. Milliston to the inside then, forcing Cassier the long way around for turn 4, sorry, into turn 5. And Nico Terrell. That will still give him turn 6 at Angel Nieto corner. So Cassier still within his chances to fight here for second place. But can Milliston run him the long way around, or is he trying for a switch back? The latter, as it turns out, is on the exit of turn 6 and on our way to turn 7 at De La Afición. The McLaren is up on the inside. Bit of a cheeky cut there, but nothing that the stewards haven't already noticed. Into turn 8 we go then, and it was a bit of contact by the looks of it. Not entirely sure whether or not that was, or if the angles just weren't very permissive to give us the right sort of stuff here. Turn 9, now 10, now turn 11. Just under 4 minutes left to go, and that Mustang is holding on for dear life in that fight of second. We're still watching from the defending point of view, but let's try and get the attacker's perspective here as the man on a mission, Melvin Milliston, was within a hair's width of retaking that race lead. It has all come apart after a very controversial move by Tyler Vermac. So we're watching with McLaren's Melvin Milliston. He started from pole position. He's fighting for second with Maloir Racing's Axel Cassier in the last 3 minutes of racing. Still leading that charge is Cas Van Velzen. All of their pushing and shoving is letting Van Velzen escape. 3.5 seconds up the field right now. Into turn 1 at Aspar we go. I do not imagine that the next race coming is going to be one met with warm hospitality amongst the paddock now. I think we are going to be seeing war. We are going to be seeing blood. We are going to be seeing viscera, and it is going to be brutal. Out through Nico Terrell. It's contact between Cassier and Milliston. Oh, my word. It loops all the way back onto him. The domino effect there in play on the exit of Nico Terrell. That's damage for Melvin Milliston. He's in third. Cassier is in second as of right now. So that fight for second, well and truly gone now for Melvin Milliston. How he has maintained composure over the course of everything that has happened in this race, I may never know there. That is composure that monks aspire to. So right now, 2 minutes left to go. Nearest fight at the moment, Felix Schwab and Ivan Sanchez. 0.6 of a second for 7th position right now. Ferrari versus Mercedes. You can also see as well, looking around the field on where our nearest fights could be thereafter. Technically, yes, you could say Liam Cross and Ben Cheeseman, but not for position. Cassier in second with damage. He'll be able to limp it to the line here among the final laps of today's race. It'll actually be one more, as we saw on that last lap by Van Velzen, a 39.5. And he crossed the line with about 1 minute and 40 left to go. So there will be an extra lap here available for the rest of the field, including the race leader. See here, Christian Lebay picking up a healthy top 5. Not that he'll be arguing whatsoever. Season 1's champion here in the Sunday League. Still finding his way into the top 5. Absolutely ruthless consistency from a car that is so far behind what we would have believed to be the technical curb here in ACC. And I spoke about this earlier in the week at the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship. We stay on board for just a moment's time here with Christian Lebay. I spoke about this not long ago. This is, of course, it's not exactly a meta car, you could make the argument of, and it is definitely showing its signs of age all the way into Season 3, but it still took him to a championship. And I dare to fear what kind of consequences we reap should we have ever let him into top-of-the-line machinery. He does this by volition, not because he's being told to. He does it because it's his own choice. So when he starts to choose faster cars than it, you should all be very, very afraid. See here, that fight's still incredibly close between Sanchez and Schwab. We will be catching on board, though, with Van Velzen over the course of the next lap. We'll stay on board here, that fight for 7th. We're watching with Ivan Sanchez. Let's see if we can get on board with Felix Schwab in the number 4 with AMG there. Right now, he fights for 7th position alongside Holkianos Motorsports' Ivan Sanchez. Sergio Belda up the field in 6th as of right now. And, oh, that was incredibly cheeky there. So Cas van Velzen was so far up the order that as of right now, he slowed it all the way down to the checkered flag and has reeled it in for the race win. He tried that underneath our noses there, but we just caught him as he finished the race. Cas van Velzen then wins race 1 of 2 today. We very nearly didn't even catch him doing that. That was incredibly cheeky. Looking at the rest of our results then today, Axel Cassier in 2nd, Melvin Milliston 3rd. A resounding top 5 finish for Byron Forrest. What a finish by him today in the 824. LeBay in the top 5. Belda on his way to the line. We could see the end of the saga here for Sanchez and Schwab. You can see right behind him all the way to the line. Belda for 6th. Sanchez for 7th. Schwab for 8th. Cross for 9th as he makes his way out of turn 14. Dave Bond will make a top 10 appearance with Porsche on his 2nd bout then with Stuttgart's finest. The 107 to the line then makes 10th. Milbank on his way to turn 14 as we speak. The 44 will be in 11th. He started from the pit lane, so he has done a remarkable job there of finding his way closer to solid points positions at the end of today's round. Finishes ahead of the marked man of this grid. The number 835 of Tyler Vermaak definitely found himself the centre of quite a bit of controversy in today's round, and that's only going to follow into the qualifying and practice coming up in a moment's time. He makes 12th with the fastest lap. James Mason's the line then on thoughts of what could have been today for 13th position, swerving out of the way of the 835. How on earth he's kept that out of the wall? Oh, never mind. So, Cas van Velzen wins race 1 of 2. Axel Cassier and Melvin Milliston on the podium, rounding out the top 5. Byron Forrest on a resounding top 4 finish, and Christian LeBay on another appearance to the top 5. Very controversial race in the wet, I dare say there, and we've still got one more before the end of today's broadcast, so don't you go anywhere. We aren't done yet. So we'll be getting on to the proceedings then of the next free practice and next qualifying session. To bring that back up, this is what the schedule looks like. We're out past FP1, Q1 and R1 now into FP2, Q2 and R2. So another 5 minutes for free practice, which will be more necessarily the cool down room for our drivers now after a very heated race 1. And then Quali 2 coming up for another 10 minutes, battling in what is hopefully going to be drier conditions on the horizon here in Valencia. And that's followed on by another 30-minute race before the end of today. And in between these races, we like to remind you that it wouldn't be possible to bring you these broadcasts without the support of Malwa Transport Incorporated, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca if you or someone you know are located in Canada and are looking for an efficient and professional transportation brokerage service for your business. So, on to the discussion then of free practice 2, quali 2, and race 2, and I must say we are following on what is more a river of blood than we are on the trailings of a fantastic and amicable race on all fronts with no problems whatsoever. This is going to be rough because you're about to see a lot of drivers reap what they sow here, and karma has a way of catching up to everybody, and I do not believe we are going to see a very calm, measured, or frankly civil race in the one following on from what has been hell on earth here in Valencia. So I watch with both anticipation and fear, and I imagine you do the same at home. God help us all. Because who else can in this situation? It's gonna get rough. So we just wait now then for the start of free practice 2. The post-session breaks are, I think they're in and around 2 to 3 minutes here. So let's take some time to discuss some of just a short amount of what we've seen over the course of that last race. Namely, that move by Tyler Vermaak, unlapping himself in a fight right up at the front row between Cas van Velzen and Melvin Milliston. Was that the right call? That's what I want to hear from the people in chat. Do you think that was the right call for him to shove his nose up on the inside? By all accounts, he looked to have the space, but then you've got to start taking into consideration the context it surrounds, and it ended up being a move too sketchy for him to pull off, and that ultimately took out the chances of Melvin Milliston's Foire back up to first place. K1 Jupiter in chat saying, could do with a highlights reel. Now, we have experimented with this idea because the slideshows you see at the start of our streams sample from a folder. We have a folder full of the splash card images with all the little pictures in the background with the TRTN logo and says stream starting soon. We're thinking, can we try and get that to work on OBS? So this is something we're going to take a look at, because this is definitely something that would be a pretty cool feature to bring it in the near future. It's going to be a little bit janky because it would be sampling from the replays, meaning we're not taking replays of absolutely everything. So unless it is a very notable exemption to that, say like a crash or a fantastically pulled off move, it would be a bit sparse for proper, concise information. We'd love to do that though, so anyone who knows how to do that, do feel free to get in touch. Sadly, we don't have much news to report on today either, as it's been a bit of a dry week in motorsports. Of course, there's still been the rumours of Cadillac's lineup being revealed for Formula 1, but all of the rumours right now, even though they can be grounded in pretty solid basis and forums and sources and what have you, we still don't have official word from Revolut Cadillac Formula 1 Racing. So we don't have a conclusive answer. I'm pretty sure every sign and every piece of evidence points towards Bottas and Perez. But we just don't know at this time. Do I think that's a great lineup? Absolutely. You have two drivers here that are outside two of the greatest teams in modern Formula 1. They're without a seat. And I think Perez got a bit of a hard play. I think he got maybe looked down upon too much. He warned the Red Bull Racing team about the improvements in quotation marks to that car all the way as far back as Barcelona 2023, and they ignored that, supposedly. So he was able to tell this was coming from a mile out, and he ended up being the fall guy of it. Now, as we see the start of free practice 2, we can see it's going to be a bit more of a tepid affair here. No one's really looking to get out on track, as we know the lay of the land here. We're just going to be cooling down, cooling the jets, as it were, off of the brakes of what has been a very hectic round. For a short 30 minutes, I am surprised by the density of what we got to see. See here, Scott Milbank's out on track, though. It's not stopped him from at least getting a few laps in. Bear in mind, started from the pit lane, still managed to get his way ever closer to very nearly a top 10 finish in the race just gone for race 1 of 2 today. Having a look at that calendar once more, when we leave Valencia for further into Europe, we'll be heading over to Germany at the Nürburgring GP circuit, so not using the Nordschleife like most people would have thought we would have. We'll be heading to the GP circuit. I think personally underrated because it gets overshadowed by the mighty Nordschleife, with every reason, I imagine. But we'll be heading there on the 31st, next Sunday, and then over to Monza for a double header of endurance rounds. So a lot to play for there. Strategy creeping back in before we head to another double sprint round, this time at the Red Bull Ring for round 8 of the championship, then to Indianapolis, back into the standard configuration. Very rare sight actually compared to the endurance and double sprint. And then we're over to Silverstone to round out the championship with yet another double sprint round. So definitely a hectic end to season 3 on the horizon. See, the only two drivers out at the moment, the number 420 and the number 44. So Cas van Velzen and Scott Milbank, the only two drivers taking to the track in what looks like much more favourable conditions. Now, cross your fingers, touch wood and whatnot, because we could still be proven wrong here. We had decent conditions to start the session off, and it went very quickly into downpour here in Valencia. But never say never on the prospect of a dry race, and we're still thoroughly clasping to the idea that we could get one today. So you see here with Cas van Velzen, 2 wins in a row now here in the Sunday League. So that is really something to write home about there. You can make the argument it was a bit of a controversial way up, as it was a bit of a bump between the pair that ended up netting him that position. But he still held on, and you can't make the argument that he wasn't at least very consistent today. Should I do the next racing the next Sunday? Asks MLIS 1675 in chat. by all accounts, if you want to sign up, it's available on SimGrid. If anyone in the chat from the race organisers could potentially pop that in and let this gentleman know how he can get in touch with getting into these races. It is always wonderful to see brand new drivers make their way in. Sadly, we didn't see our new guy for today. We were expecting a brand new driver. Sadly, did not make it to today's race. Getting a look right now then at every single race winner then here in the Sunday League so far. Melvin Milliston with 4 wins is getting ever closer to the chance of equaling the all-time record of 5 race wins. That's held by Wesley Kuiper and Season 2's champion Jason Bush. Cas van Velzen now makes his way up to 4th overall in the history of the Sunday League by becoming the 4th driver in its history to pick up consecutive race wins. He picks up his 2nd today, of course, after his inaugural at Spa last Sunday. And you can see behind him as well, Alexander Rozhnov, Ian Skeen, Diman Ivanov, Martijn van Manen, Hayden Puttock, and Louis Baptiste on that chart as well. So what an opening race that has been. We're right at the very end then of free practice 2. Right before we get on to the second of our qualifying sessions today. And fingers crossed, it could be yet another dry one on the charts for us today. We watch here with Scott Milbank. And as one of only a handful of drivers to have been out on the track during free practice 2. You can see the only other with him at the moment, the number 48 of Leon Schumacher. Takes that provisional 2nd fastest time. So, but moments away then from the start of Quali 2. And it's going to get very, very interesting now. And I imagine the consequences of race 1 will creep in on the start of race 2. But first things first, we've got to see where our drivers rank up as what appears to be another dry quali is on the way here with the sun shining, admittedly starting to droop yonder the horizon for what looks to be potentially some dusk to even nighttime racing in lieu here in Valencia. As we start Quali 2, you can see already, rather unsurprisingly so, the early bird is out of the cage here. James Mason out onto track for the first of our drivers in Quali 2. He did so in Quali 1. You really can't falter his commitment to wanting to get out of the gates as soon as possible. It's what's earned him the name, the early bird, in the first place. So looking at that field then, following on his trails is the number 68, Melvin Milliston, but behind him is the 420 of Cas van Velzen. The number 824, not too far away from them either, Byron Forrest, who finished last race in 4th, is still gunning for a podium appearance. He was very, very close to such in Alton Park. He had that fight with James Mason for 3rd place right at the very end of the race. Sadly, we weren't able to capture that as we were also watching another battle at the time. We know that the American is within his chances here of a podium appearance. It has been onwards and upwards from the word go here. Do keep a very close eye. A bit of a hidden gem inside of the top 10, Byron Forrest. He has been very, very solid all season. So we watch with James Mason. We'll bring back up that discussion of qualifying predictions for just a moment. Now outdated and also slightly inaccurate as it shows Ben Cheeseman in 2 separate positions on the track. We can still make the argument your heavy hitters for qualifying in the dry here are going to be Milliston, Vermack and Forrest, but I would absolutely throw the hat into the ring of Cas van Velzen making an appearance there to make your big 4. But let's see now, with all of the drivers relatively speaking acclimatized to the conditions of Valencia, what they can do now on their 2nd attempt of qualifying. 8.5 minutes then just under left to go as we start the first of our flying laps here from James Mason. See joining us in chat as well, Catinos World TV and Jason Bush, the Season 2 champion, joining us once more for the broadcast. Good evening to the pair of you. We can see some support already coming out there for Byron Forrest in the 824. It was a fantastic result in that last race just gone. He really served the chaos of his contemporaries around him, kept his head low and locked in for that 4th place finish. That was fantastic by him. He's definitely in his right to come and fight for that top 3. So we're back on board with James Mason here. He makes his way out through turn 10 and into turn 11 at Jaime Masia. So as mentioned before as well, a lot of that support coming out for Byron Forrest also goes by the name Black Metaphor, famed music producer who's produced such labels as Ali Boumaier, the beats for Ali Boumaier, By the Game featuring 2 Chainz and Rick Ross. And I've actually heard this song before as well. I never realized the guy who made the backing track, the beats for it, was competing in racing. And I actually had a good conversation with Byron Forrest not too long ago where he said, yeah, I've been producing beats, I've been making some pretty recognizable beats for songs such as Ali Boumaier, and I've always just had this sort of backing passion for motor racing, and this has been his sort of way in through sim racing. So it's fantastic to see people come from all different areas of the world and all different areas of the industry to congregate under the veil of sim racing. And we can see now the first of our times coming in. And we're nearly halfway into the session there, so very late for our drivers to get those times in here in Quali 2. Cas van Velzen then leads the charge from Kevin Quain. Christian Lebay shoots up to 3rd, and Byron Forrest in 4th. Leon Schumacher in the top 5, but he's down a position with the introduction of Axel Cassier, who takes Lebay's 3rd place and pushes him down to 4th, pushes Forrest to the back of the top 5. Next to the line was the 107. That was Dave Bond. Didn't set a valid time, sadly, on that last lap just gone. The next to the line is the number 91 here of Ivan Sanchez with 5 minutes 45 left to go. There's the number 91. He's 8th fastest. Behind him is Tyler Vermaak, the marked man of Valencia here. That is going to be a very, very tough race to follow on from, especially if he's anywhere near some of the drivers he was up in the midst of over the course of the last race just gone. But it's Ford 1, 2, and 3. Nearly halfway into today's session. The 4:13 next to the line. James Mason finally to set a time on the charts. His last lap was invalid and he's 2nd fastest. Behind him there comes Melvin Milliston up to pole position for the 2nd time going. 1:32.445 on the charts there. Behind him, the number 50 of Sergio Belda sadly doesn't set a valid time. The number 420 of Cas van Velzen is right behind. Sadly also does not set a valid time. The 824 Byron Forrest up to 3rd. Then with just under 5 minutes left to go in today's session. Number 48 next to the line. That's Leon Schumacher. Sadly not for an improvement of position. Do we see an improvement out of the likes of Christian Lebay? Yes, from 7th to 5th. Pushes Cassier and Quain down a push there to 6th and 7th. Speaking of the 607, here comes Kevin Quain to the line here from 6th. Does not retake 5th, sadly, on this lap just gone. We can see Liam Cross in the background as well. Following on his trails was the likes of, I believe, there, Cassier, hiding behind his fellow Mustang for 4th position there. He's now up and ahead of James Mason. Next to the line then, number 91, Ivan Sanchez, and behind him the 835 of Tyler Vermaak. So we see here Sanchez in 11th. Does he find his way into the top 10? Not on this lap just gone. Vermaak finds his way up to 2nd there, pushing his way in between Milliston and Van Velzen. That gap much closer between the top 2 than it is between the top 3. Do keep a close eye on that. Number 44 next. Actually, no, sorry, I can barely read. That's the number 68 to the line next. And that was Melvin Milliston. He does open the gaps up to another 0.2 of a second there. Behind him was James Mason. Sadly, does not find an improvement for position over the course of the last lap. The number 50 of Sergio Belda overtakes his teammate on the times there for 12th. The 824 across the line. Byron Forrest sadly doesn't retake 3rd, but with still 3.5 minutes left to go, there is still time for the American to fight for the top 3. Bear in mind, every single champion of the Sunday League has come from continental North America. Season 1 came from Canada's Christian Lebay. Season 2 came from the United States' Jason Bush. So we know that North America can produce a very hearty variety of racing driver here in the Sunday League. We see, though, push down another position with the introduction of his fellow continental North American, and this time hailing from his neighbours in the north, Canada's Kevin Quain in 4th position. The 107 next to the line. Dave Bond to set a time on the charts then for the first time from 15th. Goes only to 14th here with 2 minutes 40 seconds left to go. Number 91 next to the line. Ivan Sanchez with Holkianos. They had a great result in race 1. 2.5 minutes on the charts then from 13th. Sadly, no improvement. We can see Tyler Vermack in the background there. From second, does he find his way to first? Not on this lap just gone, sadly. A war on all fronts then in qualifying. 2 minutes left to go. Still much is left to be decided here in the court of Melvin Milliston. He took pole position at the end of Quali 1, but it all came asunder for him by the end of race 1, where in which he finished on the back of that podium. Tyler Vermack looking for his own slice then of a podium finish today. Has still yet to, if I'm not mistaken, still yet to have won in the Sunday League. Now, keen-eyed viewers of the NLRL Sunday League and its coverage here exclusively on TRTN will remember back at the Circuit of the Americas round of Season 2 where Tyler Vermack crossed the checkered flag in first place, but a post-race investigation, namely for an incident down, I think it was turns 10 and 11 between himself and the 111 of Wesley Kuiper, ultimately ruled that he would receive a post-race time penalty. That pushed him behind Diman Ivanov, ultimately giving Ivanov his first win in the Sunday League and robbing Vermack of his chance of his very own. You can see that is quite an alarming sight as that looks to be rain creeping in yonder the horizon, this mist rolling in. And oh, that is not looking particularly good then. If we are to believe that we could possibly get another dry race, I think we might be in for another wet race here if the weather is to give us any indication. We're into the final minute of qualifying today. See in the background, Vermack crosses the line, sadly not to an improvement. LeBay behind him from 7th, also sadly not to an improvement. Liam Cross in pursuit then in the number 82 at the back of the top 10. Can he get up past James Mason over the course of this last lap? He needed 3 attempts for it, sadly does not find it. Does James Mason find time on Scott Milbank? Needed 2 attempts. He does find a few thousandths, but sadly not enough. In the background there, we can see heading to the line, Sergio Belda. Also does not find an improvement on that lap just gone. In the background as well, you can see the 824. Byron Forrest now just outside of the top 5. Milliston crosses the line and extends the gap to a 132.160 right at the very end here of qualifying. Quali 2 of today. Heading to the line then. Just out of time for Leon Schumacher. That'll be his last lap on the charts. Crosses the line for 11th. Behind him, the 607 of Kevin Quain will start as good as 4th today. Let's see where it adds up at the end of today's session. The number 44 next to the line. Here comes Scott Milbank from 8th position. Does he find the leg up at the very end? Very, very nearly within 0.04 of a second there of the 7th place car of Christian LeBay. Number 91 is next to the line. Let's get on board with Ivan Sanchez. Right behind him is Tyler Vermack. The pair out through turn 14 at Adrian Campos. Felix Schwab and Ben Cheeseman sitting out quali today as well. So that is a remarkable sight. Down to the line then goes Sanchez. Vermack in pursuit. Vermack could not find the time necessary for pole position. LeBay to the line. Sadly also doesn't find an improvement. Does Cross find anything in the bookings here to get up past 10th position? Needs 4 tenths here on James Mason's BMW. And, well, he does find improvement. It's just not enough. What can Mason do then? To the line, needed 2 tenths. Only finds 1 and remains in 9th place. To the line then comes Sergio Belda. Behind him, the 824 and the 68. So Byron Forrest next to the line. Belda up to 11th. Forrest to the line from 6th and remains in 6th. Milliston opens the gap up even more. So that is really nailing home the point here. He took pole. He improved again. He improved again. He improved again. So Milliston is, put it bluntly, a little bit angry. I think we can all tell from that. This man is not playing around anymore. Playtime is very much over in the court of the 68 McLaren. Because if the message wasn't clear, it is now. Any clearer, you see straight through it. That's the end of Quali 2. And a real stern message to be sent, but you can see that rain is creeping in. There was this looming fog over the grid, and you can see there the rain hitting the track right at the end of Quali. So are we going to miss out on the rain showers? Now, looking at some of that weather data sent in by the race organisers, The chances of a fall dry are 81%. The chances of a fall wet are 9%. For mixed is 10%. The overwhelming majority of data would give us the indication of a fall dry session. But we have really threaded the eye of a needle and then some to get what appears to be 2 wet races in a row. But we'll see when the grid lines up as to exactly what we're dealing with here for race 2 of round 5. Race 1 was won by Cas van Veltzen. But who comes out on top this time? Van Veltzen will actually start on that second row with Kevin Quain. We'll get on to the discussion of the grid for round 5, race 2 in a moment's time. Now, my real fear is if we are to see, now this is a big if we are to see a wet race creep up on us again, is going to be that very same section of the track that we saw Bedlam erupt on lap 1. That hook in through the very sharp left-hander at Aspar on our way to Duin. We saw Vermaak go on the very far right-hand side of that, pick up so much standing water that the car was just practically skating at that point. Turn it whichever direction you want. It wasn't going to be slowing down. And then ultimately created the huge domino effect we saw that pushed quite a few drivers out of stead. We'll wait to see that grid form up, and we're just crossing our fingers here, praying for drier conditions. Oh, and our prayers have been answered because I don't see rain, but I do see nighttime. So a lack of visibility is still a pressing factor here as we're right in the dusk here in Valencia. Much warmer conditions though. The track temperature 33 degrees, matching ambient then. That'll be coming down over the course of the race as the sun stoops lower beyond the horizon line. Let's get on to the discussion of our second grid for the second race today. Melvin Milliston back onto pole position. Alongside him, Tyler Vermaak for an ultra-competitive front row once more. Cas van Veltzen right behind them with Kevin Quain, Axel Cassier and Byron Forrest. History repeating itself now as the Fords line up in stampede formation for the next 2 rows. Then behind them, Christian Lebay in 7th, Scott Milbank in 8th, James Mason in 9th, Liam Cross in the top 10 again. Sergio Belda in 11th ahead of Leon Schumacher and Ivan Sanchez in 13th. Dave Bond in 14th, Felix Schwab in 15th and Ben Cheeseman in 16th position. It's going to be our second go around here, and what can these two do on the front row? There is a lot of animosity now between Milliston and Vermaak after the shenanigans we saw in race 1 today. How do they carry themselves for the next 30 minutes of racing yonder the horizon? We wait here about a minute and a half. We'll stay with the front row, and it is going to be a very, very bizarre race indeed. Do we see the worst come out of them, or are we about to see some of the finest examples of racing, dare I say, in console racing history? It's no surprise that the Sunday League has been rising in popularity in the last 3 seasons, and it has risen to one of the most sought-after series on console racing on this level. We're right in that semi-pro bracket here. This is on the stepping stones to esports greatness. And what a grid we're seeing. These drivers, they get around. We've seen quite a few of these drivers actually compete over in major championships for console ACC, hosted by companies such as AMG. Tyler Vermaak among them actually competed in one such event. We've seen a few drivers as well from the MSA racing team who have competed in the Sunday League over the course of Season 3, also find their way onto top steps like that. 35 seconds left to go, so the 30-second warning creeping up on us right about now. So we'll be getting on board with Melvin Milliston for the second of our formation laps as the grid lights up here for race 2 today. An eerie sight as the sun just drops below the horizon here. We'll be heading into what is effectively a night race here in Valencia. Calm and controlled by Melvin Milliston. Dominant performance in Quali 2. Let's see what he can do then in drier, more fairer conditions for that McLaren. So he set that fastest lap. He's on for pole position today. He'll be taking us away then for the start of the formation lap here in race 2. Behind him there, Tyler Vermaak and Cas van Veltzen. The thrilling 3, as it were, of the Sunday League. In this day and age, It is not a dull race when those three names are on the timing chart. You can see there Ben Cheeseman chasing the back of the field. He starts from 16th position. Looking in and amongst the field, we can see Scott Milbank, joined by teammates at K1 Esports there. James Mason in the 413 BMW behind him, but he's eyeing up a swarm of the Maloir Racing Team's cars from Christian Lebay in 7th all the way up. We take a look in the standings here, getting up further through the crowd, all the way up to 4th with Kevin Quain. We see here as well, Byron Forrest starts from 6th position, still in prime time territory here for some free overtakes if things really do kick off up through the front like we saw at the start of race 1 today. Cas van Veltzen already has 2 race wins under his belt. He took his consecutive 2nd win in the last race just gone. So he's got an opportunity here for a hat-trick. The Dutchman's not going to be wasting any time in reviewing his chances for a 3rd race win here. It's going to put him even closer to the lead of the championship, currently coveted by the likes of Melvin Milliston. Those two right at the very front. That was separated before race 1 by 5 points between Van Veltzen and Milliston. So this is incredibly close. See Vermaak lining up in 2nd here in the danger zone. He's got Milliston right alongside him here, and I don't imagine the McLaren is going to be particularly happy at the sight of the Lexus. So we'll stay on board with Milliston. Up through turn 12 then to turn 13 and 14. Towards Adrian Campos. We line up 2 abreast here. For what I dare say is an expanded field. So actually more drivers than last. We line up here with 16 cars and also 8 either side of it here for race 2 of round 5 for the final race of today to bring us to the end of round 5 and up past the season midway for season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Maloir Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. Without further ado then, 16 cars in all, 8 either side of it for the 2nd time today here in Valencia in much drier conditions. Get ready, because here we go for the 2nd time today. Without further ado then, we are green and racing here in Valencia. Another 30 minutes on the chart here for the last race of today, and a great start by Melvin Milliston. Also a fantastic start once again, 2 in a row now for Cas van Veltzen. He's right up alongside Tyler Vermaak through turn 1, getting a bit of runoff then. The race leader of Melvin Milliston, he leads through turn 1. Does he lead into turn 2? We can see that side by side there for control of 2nd. Vermaak versus Van Veltzen. The Mustang was up on the inside at Doohan, makes his way to the inside at turn 3. Could he be up into 2nd by the time we hit turn 4 at Nico Terrell? Back up to the inside goes Tyler Vermaak, but a switchback lined up by the Mustang. Let's quickly get on board with this. We can see a drive-through penalty for Byron Forrest, so it's gone asunder there for the 824. He'll be dealing with an early drive-through penalty, so a recovery drive on the bookings here for Byron Forrest. Let's see if we can catch on board with Tyler Vermaak, and conversely, if we can catch on board with Cas van Veltzen here as we try and scroll through our grid, watching that fight for 2nd. Right now, Milliston leads, and he has not wasted his time whatsoever. He is leading now by nearly 2 seconds, and a very wide lunge out through turn 11 at Jaime Macia for Cas van Veltzen. He drops behind. What happened there for Vermaak as well? Vermaak was also in trouble because he's dropped all the way behind, now nearly to his teammate there, Christian Lebay. We can see trouble hits the quarters of Axel Cassier. He has to cut across out of turn 12. It's side by side between Kevin Quain and Cas van Veltzen. He's back into that fight for 2nd. It's 2 Mustangs at war. Out of turn 14, diving for the pits, goes Byron Forrest. So, Milliston from Quain, Van Veltzen, Vermaak and Lebay for that top 5. Side by side between the 2 Mustangs, out through turn 1. Out wide then goes Kevin Quain. Up the inside then, Cas van Veltzen. You can see Tyler Vermaak is right with the pair of them. Up to turn 3 we go then, still controlling 2nd place. A great start by Cas van Veltzen. Tyler Vermaak is going to be beside himself here. Not much he can do in the wake of things. Doesn't want to barge his teammates out of the way. That's Kevin Quain in front of him, fellow teammate for the Maloir Racing Team. But the Lexus is in much worse stead than it'd like to be. Of course, maybe throwing a comparison there. Maybe not as bad as race 1, but he is beside himself here. Rookie mistakes have taken him out of that choice for 2nd for the time being. But we've seen the pace the 835 has, so let's not rule it out forever. Cass Van Veltzen, though, currently that's subject to discussion. We see, oh, it's contact! How has it happened so early in today's race? The worst has come to fruition. You can see side by side, it already started off with contact on the exit of turn 8. Somehow, he's crashed into his own teammate. Oh, welcome back, Hertz Team Jota. Catch now with Axel Cassier right up alongside James Mason, who I must say has had an absolute rip-roaring start in that BMW. Now up into 4th position, out through Adrian Campos. And he's right alongside Christian Lebay, who I must say has had a blinder of a start. That Aston Martin now in 3rd. We're watching here with Cassier. He's got the run here on the BMW of James Mason, looking to cover him off for the inside. He's still with him, but just too far away by the time we get onto the brakes. What on earth has happened here in Valencia yet again? I'm dumbfounded. And Mason up on the inside of Christian Lebay is looking for his 2nd ever podium in the Sunday League. The number 48's in trouble there as well. I believe that's Leon Schumacher to bring out the yellow flags between turns 1 and 2. We're still on with Axel Cassier fighting not only with his own teammates, but a full frontal assault from the K1 Esports team. Absolutely brilliant stuff there between the leading teams of the Teams Championship, Malwar Racing and K1 Esports. The bottom line, James Mason up to 3rd, Lebay down to 4th. Cassier on ambitions of higher positions is trying his luck with the Aston Martin ahead. But right behind him comes Scott Milbank. We'll try and stay on board where we can here, but it's absolute mayhem in the crunch time just at the back of that top 5. Cassier clinging on for dear life here to the back of the 119 Aston Martin. All of this is in the maelstrom for the fight of 3rd position. Fundamentally, it's the fight for 4th for Axel Cassier, and defensively, it's the fight of 5th. But he's looking for 4th here on Christian Lebay. Lebay's giving him the room on the inside of turn 14. He knows the Ford's got great straight line speed, but he's not exactly lacking in that department himself. That Aston Martin is a bullet down this opening straight. Down towards turn 1 we go then. Mason has cleared the gap then from Lebay. He's in a comfortable 3rd for now and looking at aspirations to take on Van Veltzen. A big shake by the 119 Aston Martin has put Cassier to the inside at turn 2. If he leaves any wider a gap, he invites the opportunity for Scott Milbank and Liam Cross to come and have a go for position himself. Christian Lebay, a little bit of a wobble from the Aston Martin, showing signs of age here, but he is not out of this fight whatsoever. Anyone who's watched Lebay for long enough knows his tenacity to fight, and he will not back down and show no quarter in the face of certain adversity. That Aston Martin is an absolute trooper. See in the background as well, things start to hot up for Felix Schwab. In hot pursuit at the moment appears to be Ben Cheeseman in the 114 for K1 Esports. We're watching right now with Christian Lebay in the Aston Martin. Was briefly, for about a moment there, up in the top 3. We're trying to watch with him here. It's right on his tail end. I believe we're looking here at the fight of... and our data's being a little bit inaccurate. I believe, yes, this is the fight for 5th place for Christian Lebay. The defensive fight right now against Milbank and Cross. Down into turn 14 we go. We can see Cross actually goes for the inside on Milbank. And he just couldn't find the room there past the apex. Milbank holds on to 6th. But for how much longer? Because Cross is in his slipstream. Let's actually get on board with the state of affairs going on down the order as well. We can see Ivan Sanchez and Kevin Quain look to be getting into a row in a moment's time. But let's try and catch on board. As after that incident between himself and Quain, Vermaak is now outside of the top 10 again. It's disaster here in round 5 for the South African talent. He was within his chances here to fight for the championship. He'll have to wait a little while longer. Checking in with Ben Cheeseman. I must say it is a proper start for the Brit. The 114 is inside that top 10 and he is looking at hopes here of 8th position, courtesy of the number 4 Felix Schwab ahead. He's sizing up that AMG for a lunge here. Heading into Angel Nieto, turn 6, couldn't find the room for the inside. Let's quickly check in here with Scott Milbank, the man in the middle for the fight of 6th, further on for the fight of 5th, and defensively that fight for 6th position against the car behind him, Liam Cross. You can see, though, things are starting to erupt further up the order for all 3 of these drivers, 5th through 7th. And then for Schwab and Cheeseman behind them. Could worlds collide here in one of the longest battles we've ever seen for a single position on track? A proper train looks to be pulling in. Leading that train is James Mason in third place. Only 0.6 of a second, actually about half a second from Axel Cassier. Then behind him is Lebay. Then on your screens at the moment is Scott Milbank in the McLaren, number 44. Then right behind him in the blue and yellow, number 82 Mustang, is Liam Cross. What a great opening 8 minutes, I must say. We are not starved for good action here at Valencia. You can see in the background as well. Now up and ahead is Ben Schiessman on Felix Schwab. So we had that tucked in by the end of Sector 3. Very well done to him. In the opening 10 minutes here, still plenty to fight for. Only 0.2 of a second as they make their way through turn 1. Schwab could actually find his way back up to the inside. So we will check in here with Felix Schwab. He's right with Ben Schiessman. Oh my word, it was contact. And a spin out there. We can't actually catch it on our cameras. We have to go to third person. And he's facing the wrong way. It's all come asunder for Felix Schwab in the number 4. Flew too close to the sun and his wings have melted. And it's the same story for his teammate, Leon Schumacher. It's disaster for these two at the moment. Checking in with James Mason. He leads the charge here on what is one of the longest trains we've seen for a single position. Meanwhile, up the order, it's Milliston from Van Veltzen. See in the background as well, plenty of dust being kicked up on the exit of turn 8. Now to turn 9 and 10. Cassier is in pursuit. Let's not deny the truth here. Let's get on board, as a matter of fact, with Axel Cassier. Right behind him, you can see Christian Lebay, Scott Milbank, and Liam Cross. Right now, we're watching that fight for third. Cassier with the Malwar team hunting down Mason from K1 Esports. The war of the two leading teams here in Season 3's Teams Championship. He's got him on the run here, down the opening straight towards Aspar at turn 1. Well, we know just how great the straight line speed of both the Ford and the BMW are, but I think it's too little too late in difference between the pair of them before Aspar going for a little bit of a wider line on the right-hand side. Cassier is sizing up Mason, but Mason is holding firm in the face of it. Down towards turn 2 at Dewan. He's still trying his luck, but Mason holds centre mass of the road, then all the way to the inside to cover off any advance of a switchback. Down into turn 3 we go. It is so incredibly close here because he holding the left-hand side of the track, trying for the more aggressive of two lines. Down into Nico Terrell at turn 4, elevates that into the same story at turn 5. But all of this has allowed Christian Lebay to catch him up from the back of that top 5. We could be seeing fundamentally the fight for 4th position kick off in a moment's time here. More realistically, it is still a 3-man fight for 3rd, and not too far away at all is the likes of Milbank and Cross to make this 5-man's company for 3rd place. It's contact, as earlier on the brakes went James Mason and got bumped out of position there by Axel Cassier, who looks to potentially go up into 3rd for his efforts. No, actually, so holds off. Very good sportsmanship then to recognise the fault that he's had there. And you can see trying to go around the outside on Christian Lebay. Is that Scott Milbank? Yes, it is, in the 44. Let's try and catch on board here with the story of Lebay v Milbank. Heading in through turn 12, we're on with Christian Lebay. Very nearly had his goose cooked there by the 44. Now you can see Liam Cross is coming to have a go. Let's see if we can catch on board with Cross by the time we get down towards turn 14. We're on with Milbank here to the inside. It's very close between the pair of them. A great pinch, and Cross may just be up into position here for 6th. It's side by side, and the McLaren is losing the drag race. So that was very close indeed, because the up the order, though, is where things are about to kick off. As side by side into turn 1, Cassier v Mason. Cassier's up into 3rd. Mason's down to 4th. Now as we head to Dewan at turn 2, can Mason have a chance to reclaim position? He is definitely trying for it. Right behind him is Christian Lebay. As we watch over the rear view, you can only just see the BMW sweep up the inside at turn 3. The Mustang fights him back at turn 4 at Nico Terrell. Now round the outside, can Mason do it? It is a real ballsy move by the 413, but he's still there. I don't believe the like. Heading up to turn 6, can Mason re-secure 3rd? Yes, he can. What a move by the 413. This is fantastic racing. Absolutely no end to it in sight. Down to turn 8 we go then. A Bernat Martinez out of turn 7 at De La Afición. What a race we are gifted here, and we're not even halfway in. Down to turn 11 we go then, Jaime Masia. So, at the moment, we can see actually dropping down a ways there. Christian Lebay now out past Liam Cross. And Scott Milbank looks to have his way on the inside at turn 12. Very nearly taps the back of the 119 Aston Martin. But Liam Cross makes his way to the top 5. Right alongside them, you can see Milbank and Cheeseman look to swap hands here of position. Side by side between the two K1 McLarens as Cheeseman goes the long way around. Remarkable stuff. Trying to catch on board here. Let's see if we can see how this saga plays out. Cheeseman, from a country mile away, has emerged into this fight. What an arrival we've seen by the 114 around the outside at turn 14. Slingshot from McLaren. Oh, it's contact up the order. LeBay has hit Liam Cross. I don't believe it. Trying to catch on board here. Has also caught up in the mess of it all, I believe. Yes, was Scott Milbank. Oh, my word. Milbank looks to be out of the race. The number 44 very nearly caught the back of the 119 again. Oh, my goodness gracious me. It has all come apart at the seams here. Yellow flags are out for the time being. Let's see if we can catch with the number 44. Milbank's now out past the 107 on our screens at the moment. Dave Bond and Tyler Vermax up to 10th after all things said and done on that opening lap. So as we near that halfway mark, let's try and get at least a comprehensive understanding of what we're up against here. Melvin Milliston leads with the fastest lap. Cass Van Veltzen in second. James Mason is side by side with Axel Cassier. We'll stay on board with these two in that fight for second as we recount the rest of the top 10. All in that fight for third right now. So looking further down the order, Ben Cheeseman is in present company of these two. The 114 is charging to the back end of the Ford and the BMW for third place. My mistake there. The last of the podium positions in fifth position. Liam Cross right behind them as well in sixth. LeBay 7th. Quain 8th. Belter 9th. Vermac 10th. Bond 11th. Milbank 12th. Sanchez 13th. Forrest down to 14th. Schumacher 15th with a drive-through penalty. Schwab in 16th. It's been disastrous for Mercedes today, but it has been an absolute riot for BMW, Ford and McLaren. Out through turn 3. He is still right with him. Axel Cassier is not letting go of a chance of another podium appearance in this championship. Mason is looking for his second career podium in the Sunday League. He's been around since season 1. And that opportunity is so close, yet so far away. Another 15 minutes we've got to wait here before we get to the checkered flag. Let's get back on board with the likes of Axel Cassier, currently 4th, fighting for 3rd. Cheeseman and Cross right behind him here. It is still an absolute riot for 3rd place. Can see as well things are livening up further down the order. Let's catch on board with some of the drivers further down the field here. As you can see, things are getting closer towards the back of our top 10 for Mack and Bond. And actually we see more relevantly Bond and Milbank. So a disgruntled Scott Milbank was previously up there fighting inside the top 5, now is scraping around the back of the top 10, but he is not down and out of this race today because he's still got the energy for it and he is chasing down Dave Bond in the 107 Porsche. His second race, by the way, in the 992. So it is remarkable progress we're seeing right now from Dave Bond. You can also see up the order here. Tyler Vermac looking to get the leg up on Sergio Belter. He's got the straight line speed over the Ferrari. That 5.4 litre Lexus V8 engine is giving him absolutely everything. We have seen some trouble, though, emerge. And I believe it's for the 301 of Axel Cassier. So we did see momentary troubles emerge. We quickly just checked to see here as Sergio Belter back to the inside. Was it contact between the pair of them? Definitely looked to be the case as Vermac was all the way on the outside on the exit of Doohan. Let's quickly catch on board what on earth happened to Axel Cassier. We saw the yellow flags momentarily appear. Let's see if we can catch whereabouts he is now. He's actually out past LeBay, down in 7th position. LeBay will be up to 6th. So it has been a real war for the Maloir Racing team here. They used to occupy quite a few of those positions in the top 5. Now, not a single car is in it. LeBay, the furthest up the order for the Maloir Racing team, of which fields right now, looking at it here, 5 cars. As we see going very wide out through turn 11 was Liam Cross. He could be losing some positions out for good measure then. Ben Cheeseman's right behind him by 0.4 of a second. Oh my goodness, he is really clawing and scratching to keep that car in the clear and narrow. Let's see if we can catch on board with Ben Cheeseman as he looks to put himself side by side, trying for another slingshot around the outside, this time on Liam Cross. Does he get it? Double on the trot here in Valencia. He's got a very hefty challenge here of trying to outrun one of the fastest cars in a straight line here in GT3, but I don't believe what I'm seeing, because the McLaren, not only is it keeping with, it was pulling ahead. Down to turn 1. Does Cross forfeit? Yes, he does. Cheeseman up to 4th. 3.2 seconds is the dividing factor between Cheeseman and a podium finish today. That last of the podium positions held by his teammate at K1, James Mason, in the 413 BMW. This is a remarkable race. Never have I been this excited for a bout of motor racing in all my time as a commentator. Valencia has proven to be a hidden gem of European racing here in ACC. It is an absolute riot on all fronts. Never a dull day here in Cheste. Liam Cross then, who lost that position out to Ben Cheeseman, still occupies the last of the top 5 positions, that which you have a very hungry ensemble of Mauer racing cars looking to take back a top 5 finish today. Right now, let's see if we can catch on board with Christian Lebay. Right along with him is Axel Cassier, who ran into some trouble not too long ago and has dropped away from the fight of the podium for the time being. So we're on board. This is for the fight of 5th place. Cross versus Lebay versus Cassier. In theory, you could suggest that the two Mauer cars could work together here to give each other a little bit of extra tow up to the back of the Mustang. Lebay is no slouch himself in that V12 Vantage, though it may be one of the oldest cars on this grid, like the Lexus RCF as well, of Tyler Vermack. It is no slouch by comparison. The number 4 and the number 48 appear to be in trouble down at turn 1, of which we are quickly approaching as we speak. That would be Felix Schwab and Leon Schumacher. The twin Mercedes cars at the back of the field. Don't tell me they've come together at turn 1. See right now, Lebay actually almost being pressured for position around the outside by Axel Cassier in the 301 Mustang. We're coming up on white flag, so slower cars are ahead. We're struggling to see them here as we make our way to Nico Torre. You can see up the order there. That's a fluorescent green hue coming from, I believe that is up the order there, Felix Schwab in the number 4. See, still side by side, though, is Cassier and Lebay. Cassier's up on the inside on our exit of Angel Nieto corner. The Aston Martin's just got a little bit more shove here over the Mustang to carry it down into De La Afición. We've already seen problems before for the Malward team. Vermack and Quain got into contact around this area of the track. And oh, we can see off in the background there, that was the 607. That was Kevin Quain running wide out through turn 8. At Bernat Martinez corner. We're still on with Lebay, still fighting for 5th, but he is starting to flounder a little bit. I'm not sure what's gone on with the Aston over the course of this race, but he is appearing to struggle because the Mustang is catching up to him pretty quickly here. Axel Cassier, bear in mind, was further up the order already. He's been knocked down quite a few pegs here today. Oh my word, around the outside on Lebay's Aston Martin. They make it 2 abreast here on the exit of Adrian Campos corner. Down that opening straight. Up the order, you can see Cross in 5th place there. Now taking up the helm of 6th and losing out that fight for 5th for the time being. Christian Lebay drops to 7th with Aston Martin. Sergio Belda in the top 10 at the moment, running only 0.6 of a second ahead of Porsche's Dave Bond. Bear in mind, just under 9 minutes left to go in today's race. Vermack is up to 8th and on the warpath here. He's actually, pardon me, he's actually not too far away at all from his teammate, Christian Lebay. You can see the lapped car here of Felix Schwab trying to find a way to move past, or so we believe here. Trying up the inside, it was contact! Oh my goodness, contact between Cassier and Lebay. It's disaster for the Mauer team. See there, hit from the back end by the Aston Martin. It's disaster for Mauer. Tyler Vermack becomes the sole survivor of that incident. Lebay's down to 7th. And I believe Quain has actually got up past Cassier. There's going to be words at the Mauer paddock. I can't imagine all of them are too friendly. Going very wide there. You can see was, believe, yes, it was Leon Schumacher. Felix Schwab, his teammate, takes up the helm there. Very hard to tell them apart here in these conditions. There's the number 4. Well, right along with him there, out through turn 12. Leon Schumacher, they're 15th and 16th here. but right in the way of an approaching LeBay and Quain. The two Mercs trying to get side by side. Bear in mind, they are still fighting for position, but they've got faster cars ahead. What's the going rates here? Do they shove out of the way, or is it going to be war on separate lengths of the track here? This is going to get dicey because here comes LeBay and Quain, and they are considerably faster than the two Mercs over the course of the last lap. Let's see if we can catch on board with Christian LeBay. It's going to be a real hair-splitter decision here through turn one. I think we already saw problems down the order for one, now two. Schwab and Schumacher out of the way by turn two. Schumacher retakes 15th off of his teammate there. See, it's been a real breakdown across the board for a lot of teams in today's race. Vermaak runs it wide, and LeBay looks to catch him. Cross is now holding off 5th position here for his life in this race. See if we can catch on board, as a matter of fact, with Liam Cross. I have never seen a defensive posture as this. Look at the crowd mounting at the rear of him here. The death squadron of the Malwar Racing team are hotting up to take the last of the top 5 positions off of him. They know as a team they need another top 5 finish here to continue to open the margins up against K1 Esports. Cheeseman and Mason, both top scorers for now in K1 Esports' numbers, I should say, are going to be closing that gap down. We've just seen then Vermaak up into the top 5. Cross now down to 6th. LeBay right behind him, as too is Kevin Quain. So a flash in the pan there. The Malwar team are still crawling their way back up. There's definitely been quite a few bumps in the road for them here. We can see Cassier being given a little bit of present company from Schumacher and Schwab, the two Mercedes cars at the back of the field. You can see, though, with the slipstream, Schumacher's got a drive-through penalty. He's not happy for whatever reason there with Axel Cassier. You can see, actually, it was side-by-side between Quain and LeBay, this time through turn 1. Getting a look here. LeBay still holding around the outside. Another drive-through penalty, this time for Felix Schwab. There's the two Mercedes cars out through turn 2. I can't make head or tail from it, but I can make head or tail from this as LeBay has been turned around, tries to rejoin the track, hit from the back end by Dave Bond. It has been disaster for the 119. Vermaak in 4th, Cross in 5th. Actually, no, sorry, Vermaak in 5th, Cross in 6th there as the data updates. Cheeseman in 4th, Mason 3rd, Van Veltzen 2nd. Milliston leads by a country mile with 5 minutes left to go. It has been slaughter here in the night time at Valencia. Dave Bond, who was caught up in that incident from earlier, had a little bit of a clock with the back end of Christian LeBay's Aston Martin, of which is catching up to him at a rate of knots as we head out of turn 8, now turn 9 and 10. Those two Mercedes cars are rolling roadblocks, so it seems, and not a lot of drivers appear to be too happy with them. We cut across to them, they're doing the almost signature move now of any K1 driver, and that's driving completely blind in the dark. And there you can see side by side between Schwab and Schumacher. Contact between the pair. Are they driving or fighting now? What is going on here? Is it fight night for Mercedes? So it seems. Both of them into the pit lane for their drive-through penalties, of which they're going to run side by side. A bit of Vettel and Hamilton at Shanghai there. That's very cheeky. You can see Mason and Cheeseman here do not throw away what is otherwise a fantastic opportunity for points for the K1 Esports team here, but they are playing their own little games here on the second row, and let's not get too cheeky with it because only 8 seconds down the road and on a raging warpath is Tyler Vermaak. Looking around the field then, Byron Forrest got into a bit of trouble earlier in this race, but he still holds on to a top 10 position, so he'll hold on to a fairly solid stead of his championship bout here. Cass Van Veltzen, it's been lonely for him and Milliston now. They've been too far apart from one another to stage another fight. We know that the rain was the great equaliser between Ford and McLaren. And it looks like, unless anything properly untoward happens in the quarter of the 68, it won't be 3 on the trot for Cass Van Veltzen in terms of wins, but it will be a record-equaling 5th for Melvin Milliston. So 3 minutes left to go in today's race. It's still plenty left to decide. We see right now Axel Cassier and Kevin Quain right alongside one another here. As we're on with Quain as he chases Cassier. And a lot of drivers, namely the Fords as well, are struggling for rotation at turn 12. We see the nose dip in a little bit, and it almost brings the back end out of line and can cause a spin. We've seen moments of instability for a lot of the front engine cars through that dip at turn 12 at Champi Herreros. You can see as well that alongside Byron Forrest, if we can catch him here, let's go and have a look around, try and find Byron Forrest. Milbank in the K1 number 44 McLaren at the back of the top 10, now up and ahead of Sergio Belda and Dave Bond. Quain now hunting down Cassier again. Byron Forrest is catching up to his comrades here at the Malwar team, so it's Ford 6, 7, 8, and 9 right now in the last 2 minutes of race 2 today. So let's just get a gander here. Just quickly checked with Christian Lebay, but now we see here's Melvin Milliston, Cas van Veltzen in second, James Mason and Ben Cheeseman. We caught them right as they're side by side here on their way out of turns 8, 9 and 10 on our way to Jaime Masia. Who comes out on top then, side by side, battling in the dark? It's Mason leading out of turn 11, now towards turn 12 at Champi Herreros. Who comes out on top now as Cheeseman's to the inside, could lunge his way through by the time he gets to turn 13 as Mason picks up gravel. So Cheeseman around the outside at turn 13, but that gap is still left open. Is the BMW even going to try to suggest a leap for the inside? We can see further down the order, Quain with a drive-through penalty has rubbed even more salt in the wounds for Malwar's progress today in the team's championship. It looks like they'll still just about lead, but that gap is withering. Cheeseman up to third, Mason to fourth. Both of these two drivers fighting in the dark here, so it seems, with a minute left to go before the end of race 2. And oh no, don't, oh, never mind. I had a real lump in my throat there as I thought that was a disconnect. Let's not speak too soon though. I really do not want to be the one that curses this race. Mason in fourth then, Cheeseman third, Van Veltzen second, Milliston third, Vermack in fifth, Liam Cross in sixth, Cassier seventh, Quain in eighth for the drive-through penalty. That'll put Byron Forrest up an extra position, and the same story for quite a few drivers in his court here. So Forrest, Milbank, Belder, Bond, Lebay, Sanchez look to all be gaining some free positions then. Schumacher and Schwab sharing the last row. Schwab now up ahead of teammate Schumacher, 15th and 16th. The two Mercedes cars then just having a good battle to bring them to the end of a race to forget here as they're right at the back of the field. They're having their own variety of fun here, but it has gotten in the way of a few of the drivers and not going to be particularly happy. Was that? Oh, don't tell me. Oh my word, it was a turnaround. The number 4 did get turned around on our screens there. So we're on to that final lap. Milliston isn't going to be waiting for anyone else to come and have a go at his bout for a record-equaling 5th win in his career here in the Sunday League, and it'll be his 3rd win this season alone. He picked up a win in round 4 of season 1 at the, I believe it was the Red Bull Ring. He picked up a win on season premiere in Spa for season 2, and he's picked up what appears to be his 3rd, currently 2 in this season. But more on that in a moment. Checking in around that field, as we can see, there are still fights asunder here before the end of today's race, namely what appears to be in and amongst the court of the last of those top 5 positions. We do want to try and catch on board with the race leader in a moment's time as he is making his way down towards the last corners on track, but it is so close between these drivers at the moment. We are on to that final lap. The checkered flag is coming out. We can see the 607 had the yellow flags out, but it was a bump and run between himself and Cross. So the checkered flag has come out. We try and catch on board here just before he makes his way to the line. Melvin Milliston equals the record here for 5 wins in the Sunday League. Joins the ranks with Kuiper and Bush for his 3rd win this season as he wins race 2 here in Valencia. A very well done bout for the Super Swede. Number 68 victorious for the 3rd time this season. Van Veltzen on his way to the line then, scrambling in the dark for another podium appearance, lamenting what could have been a hat-trick of victories he will miss out on this time around. Cheeseman in 3rd. We can see that Mason has dropped back quite a way there, down to 6th place. So Cheeseman to the line on what has been a fantastic performance there towards the back of the field to a podium finish. That is glorious for the K1 Esports team. Tyler Vermack fights it back for 4th place for the Malwar Racing team. Axel Cassier on his way to the line then for 5th. Right behind him then, lamenting what could have been, is James Mason as he fends off Liam Cross all the way to the line by only a tenth of a second. Scott Milbank finishes in 8th. Sergio Belder to the line for 9th. Dave Bond right across the line there, only half a second ahead of Byron Forrest for 10th and 11th place. Kevin Quain serves his drive through. On thoughts of what could have been there, it will probably be, yes, a 30-second penalty, but that still puts him 14th. LeBay up to 13th. Sanchez, LeBay up to 12th. Sanchez up to 13th. And Schumacher and Schwab 15th and 16th. What a race that has been today, truly. What a race indeed. Milliston wins then for a record-equaling 5th. Van Veltzen on another podium appearance there. That championship is going to be so incredibly thin when we head to Nürburgring next Sunday. Ben Cheeseman on a resounding finish there on the podium, starting from the back. What a drive by the 114. Easy driver of the day pick there. Tyler Vermack in 4th. Cassier 5th. Mason 6th. Cross 7th. Milbank 8th. Belder 9th. Bond 10th. Forrest 11th. LeBay 12th. Sanchez 13th. Quain 14th. Schumacher 15th. Schwab 16th. What a second race, and what a way to close out round 5 of the championship. What a way to close out the first half of season 3, mind you, as well. That was absolutely spectacular. Controversial as it may be, that was still spectacular. We're looking at where we're going to be then on the calendar for the next race. Of course, we mentioned we'll be at Nürburgring, back onto the endurance format for another fortnight here at round 6 and 7. Then back to the double sprint format in the Red Bull Ring at the nearest possible chance. That's all from us here on TRTN. Oh, very well done to the 2 race winners today, Cass Van Veltzen and Melvin Millicent. Very well done to everyone else who showed up to today's double set of races. And what an introduction it has been for the double sprint format here in the Sunday League for the first time ever here in Valencia. What a pleasure it has been. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.